Hello and welcome to another Black Crow video. I'm Sam. I'm Black Crow's melee specialist, world eater specialist, and today I'm here to give you all of my sort of reasoning and tactics behind you getting the most out of the Blessings of Khorne faction army rule. So yeah, really excited to tell you about all of the thoughts that go through my head when we're picking the blessings, and it's sort of really critical to winning the game, basically, or at least increasing your chances the most into winning the game. So before we get onto that, very quickly, the sponsors Terrain Forge, Glasshammer, and Trident are all fantastic. Please go check them out. We cover everything you could possibly need between terrain, models, events, and carry cases. The link is in the link tree in the description. Please go check them out. It helps us when you do. There's discount codes for all of them. All right, so without further ado, let's hop over to the blessings. So first of all, what are the blessings, right? We've got our 6 blessings, and they are quite easy. I find them quite easy to remember when you remember them in order, because then it helps you remember the what you need for them. So obviously you've got like double 1, reroll charges, double 2, piling consolidate 6, double 3, fight on death 4+, and double 4 or triple 1 sustained hits. Double 5 or triple 2 is lethal, and double 6 or triple 3 is dev wounds versus infantry. So the best way about going about this is when we're talking about like the strategy behind blessings is very much going to be, we're just going to assume you've got a good roll where you basically get to choose anything you've got. Let's say you've got quad 6s. So you can choose any blessing you want. And like, so you're not having to worry about it. So we'll focus on that first. Maybe I'll, at the end of the video, talk about like what to do in the cases of not having a great choice on blessings. But let's be honest, if you've not got a choice on your blessings, you roll double 1, double 2, and nothing else, then there you are, right? That's what you're getting. So what you want to get doesn't help in those situations. So when you do the blessings, it's at the start of the battle round, which means sometimes you'll be going first and sometimes you'll be going second. Now I think about blessings differently if I'm going first or if I'm going second. So we'll start off with if I'm going first. So when I'm looking at what I need, so when I'm rolling the blessings, I don't know what battle shocks have failed. I don't know what secondary cards I have. And let's say I'm going first, so I can see the state of the board as it is. We know that as soon as we're done with the blessings, all of those things will come, and we'll know the state of the board. We know the state of the board models wise, and like what primary is probably going to happen, and what the opponent has done with their turn. So what we're looking at is so it's almost like I wish I'd written like down a checklist, but it's not quite a checklist. But there's a lot of things where it's like, okay, so let's assume you've got everything you want. So check off 1 is like, okay, do I need to, like, when I'm going to kill them, do I need all of the buffs possible? Like, let's say I'm against Chaos Knights, right? This is the easy one. If you can get sustain lethal against Chaos Knights or Imperial Knights, you pick sustain and lethal. If you can only get one of them, you pick lethal, right? So that's the sort of simple early start, right? That's easy, not that out of the park. Always sustain lethal against knights, and if you are unable to get both of them, quite often I go for reroll charges because it just makes that a bit more consistent. I can save my CP to potentially give me an extra AP or something like that. So you get the best of sustain and lethal you can, and then you pick up with what else. I don't think something like fight on death is really useful in that matchup. Piling consolidate 6 is much less useful. We'll get on to when you pick that in a second, but we'll just start with the higher end ones because I think that's the easier way of checking this off. So do I need damage, right? So am I going to stuff that I think I'm going to struggle to kill? So, maybe it's a big Terminator brick, or it's a bunch of vehicles. So that's when you're talking between lethal hits and dev wounds versus infantry. If you're going into a majority infantry army that you're worried about struggling to kill, like Custodes, dev wounds versus infantry, obviously the pick, right? We're knocking out the easy ones first. So that's how you decide between lethal and devs. It's honestly, you could be going into a majority infantry army, but you're not really worried about killing them. And there's that one vehicle that you're like, oh, I'm going into that with berserkers. They're not really gonna kill it. Okay, let's get lethals to try and help them kill that more likely, or something like that, right? So you got to think about it from a perspective of what do I need in this situation? What am I this turn? What am I engaging into? What am I looking at killing? Because I'm going first, right? And there's a little bit of okay, if I don't need anything in particular for my turn, what should I use to threaten my opponent's turn if I'm going first? If you're not going to be fighting something, but there's actually like a infantry unit that might come and charge you. Maybe you want some fight on death sustained hits or fight on death dev wins versus infantry. So like look at it from that side of things. So if you don't need them on your turn, go for them. Like you can start looking at what you potentially want to make difficult for your opponent, which we'll come on to more in the when we're going second. But the same sort of thing applies here. But I think you focus on what you need for your turn and then worry about their turn a little bit less. Because if you have a good turn and you connect to everything you want to, and if there is blessings, there's no point in planning for their turn if you have a really bad turn where you don't quite kill anything, and so then they're just in a much better spot because of it. So yeah, that's that bit of rambling done. So then the other thing is one of the other key points to look at is pile and consolidate 6. Do I think that pile and consolidate 6 will get me some cool moves where I swing into something somewhere, or I get like a really nice like, okay, I can charge this really close thing here, but then swing into this thing that's far away that I wouldn't risk the charge on doing over there. Setting myself up, I can send my spawn out here and get them back onto this objective into a hidden spot with the consolidate 6. These are what you want to be looking at for that. You don't want to be picking pile and consolidate 6 just because. Like it's really useful. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing, but half the time you don't need it. And just reroll charges would be better because it just makes you that more consistent, right? If you don't fail any charges across the board and don't have to spend CP on rerolling charges, that's fantastic. I think reroll charges is sometimes massively underrated. Fight on Death 4 plus. A lot of people see melee mirrors and just go, all right, fight on death 4 plus. I'm just picking fight on death, right? I'll do fight on death sustained, fight on death devs versus infantry, something like that, right? Always. It is a trap a lot of the time because if you don't roll those four, you're betting a lot on the 4-ups coming and becoming in the right places. Because let's say you've got a unit of 10 berserkers and 5 normal berserkers roll it, and the character and the special weapons don't roll it. It's like, well, I'm not doing very much damage then. But the way so when do I pick fight on death? Fight on death I pick when I feel like I don't have any other choice. Let's say I don't need reroll charges, and I've gotten a crap roll. Maybe I end up taking fight on death. Or if I think that a quarter of my unit activating, because that's base level, quarter of my unit activating does significant damage to the opponent. So if we're talking about, we're playing against Drakari, right? So when they activate into me, my weight of attacks will kill their models. One spawn could activate and wipe a unit of like, I don't know. I mean, to be fair, I had it where 2 spawn activate happen to pass their 4 plus and then kill an entire incubi squad. That's lucky. Not saying that will happen always, but it's that sort of thing of like, okay, one of those activating could do significant damage to that squad. A couple of berserkers activating can kill a bunch of witches. But so it's you want or like into Eldar, for example, it's like, okay, a couple of berserkers activating can really do some damage there. So you want to be only activating fight on death when you're not relying on, like, it's likely on an average roll to kill the entire unit or do significant impact, so that even if when you don't get that roll, it still does enough impact that it doesn't feel like a waste. And then the other side of it is if I feel like I have to spike, if I'm in a sort of a very losing situation and in a melee mirror, and I feel like I have to spike to get the damage necessary, right? Like I know my opponent's going to come in and charge a bunch of things. I'm not got the right amount of CP to like interrupt or anything like that. Uh, so potentially losing more in that way, and then okay. I need to spike, and Khan needs to roll his fight on death and then get back up and then probably roll his fight on death again later. Like this is what I mean. Like if it's your only out in the game, that's also a good pick. But just don't rely on fight on death 4+ is like almost always bad. I think it's something that people just take on impulse and then don't realize, because it's like, if 2 units get charged, like half of one of your units is going to get to activate from fight on death, and the other one's going to interrupt anyway. So even in these melee areas, you're not getting as much out of fight on death as you think. So yeah, and then the last thing is, like, if you're planning on going for stuff and it's charges, look at your distances, right? Like when you're planning out your blessings, you need to have planned your entire turn, right? Like if you're going first, you need to go, okay, like obviously it's going to have to adjust based on some secondaries, because that might happen. You might end up getting an action one somewhere, or you need to maybe get areas now, so maybe you need to refocus some models there. But you need to be thinking about that when you're making the blessings. Like, what secondary cards could I get, and what ones should I be trying to achieve? And so that reroll charges might end up being really, really useful. And you'd be like, we're a very damaging army. There's not tons of armies that are really tanky that we need sustained and lethal against. Like the majority of the time, I think I'm picking sustained hits and like a reroll charge or a pardon consolidate 6 to pull off some move when going first. So that sort of, I mean, it's a lot of like jumping around. So hopefully that all made sense. But that's how it all jumps around in my brain when I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, I want this, I want that, I want to be able to do this. The other part that we've not talked about is in Berserker Warband, obviously the most common way to play the army. You have a strat that you can get another blessing. So always take that into account as well. Look at how much CP you have, where you're going to plan on spending it in the turn, how much you want for the next turn, for your opponent's turn, and things like that. And then go, okay, I'm definitely killing this character here. So maybe I don't need that pile and consolidate 6 because I don't need it for where I'm killing this character. So I can activate it here, get the pile and consolidate 6 when I roll the blood dice, and then go from there. But be careful, it is technically extremely unlikely, but possible to fail a pile and getting a double 2. You just get a triple 1 and then one of each number after that. It is possible to fail pile and consolidate 6. But still, like if that's your way, like, oh, I really need sustained and dev wounds, but I also really want to do this trick with the pile-in. So okay, I need to, and it's like, oh well, I've got a character I can kill. So like you got to think about that side of things as well. But yeah, it's all about planning effectively your entire turn and maybe a bit of your opponent's turn. Look at how they will respond. For your if you're going first. But I do think that when it comes to blessings, if you're going first, very much focus on your turn, um, and like just to make sure that your turn is very impactful, very good. Unless the focus on your turn, it's early in the game and you're like, okay, my turn is I'm going to move up and stand on some objectives for a bit. And so maybe you want to think about different blessings, but then take into account that you might get a card that goes, oh, it'd be really good to just make that charge over there to kill that thing for like overwhelming force or something like that. So maybe think about those as well. So going second is a different ball game. So when you're going second, instead of planning out your entire turn, you need to look at what your opponent's going to try and do for their turn, and then what you want to do after that. So it's a bit more complicated, a bit more difficult, but I think there's a few more things that we can cause issues for our opponents on. So if we have, so like if I'm staged, I spent my turn, I spent, let's say it's the start of the game. My opponent goes first. I roll my blessings. What's this? What am I going to be looking at doing? Right. My opponent's probably not charging me, so but they're probably going to put some things in the middle of the board to stand on objectives and things like that. So suddenly I'm like, okay, well they're going to have to put some stuff somewhere, and if they don't, that's good for me anyway. I then look at like, okay, I'm probably going to have some decent-ish charges in places. Maybe it's just going to be spawn. Maybe it's going to be some jackals running forward, or like a unit of berserkers or something. I don't know. But the point is, you want to project the most threat into your opponent's turn to then make them have the worst, like, trouble figuring out what's best for them. So I quite often early game like the reroll charges, pile and consolidate 6, especially like if you're going second turn 1, picking this, like you're not likely to, unless you're maybe against Marines, you might want sustained one to help those spawn, pick up a unit of scouts, or there's a few things here. So maybe you do want the sustained one. It depends on what you're against and how easy it is to kill. Um, but the Piling Consolidate 6, when you're going second, is such an impactful tool because it just means your opponent has to worry about it. They can't, when they're doing their moving and stuff, they can't go, oh, you don't have Piling Consolidate 6 this turn, so I don't have to worry about, putting my units in a way that stops you doing a cool move with it. So they have to then behave accordingly, which means you probably don't get to do the thing, but then they are forced to play suboptimally. Reroll charges, another one is like, okay, when they're thinking, oh, I'm going to be, this will be like a 7-inch charge here. Like that's relatively risky for you to go for. And you're like, well, it's not as risky when I get reroll charges, right? So it's very nice to do those sort of things. But once again, it doesn't matter if you make it if you're not killing the opponent. So you need to be considering that as well. But then, so that's really easy if you're probably not getting charged that turn. When it comes to okay, they might get aggressive, they might come at me. What do I pick? It is very much like I say, I don't think fight on death is as good as is worth taking in a lot of situations. There is plenty of situations where it is good, but I think there's plenty that it's not, where it won't impact the game enough. And then it becomes a sort of like these melee mirrors are very much like a CP management exercise, is the way I see them. Like whoever, usually in melee mirrors, there's a lot of things that sort of tilt the scales, but say in an even one, it's probably the player with more CP that's going to win out on that. For things like -1 damage, for fight on deaths, like full fight on deaths for other detachments, other armies. Interrupt, heroic, all of these different tools all cost a lot of CP. So yeah, that's where it becomes interesting. And at those points, you want things like sustains and lethal and dev wounds. So you need to be considering what you think your opponent's going to do, and then what you will need to do to respond to it. And then it's all about projecting pressure, right? If the opponent's got hordes of units and you're there like, well, I've got sustained hits and reroll charges, like or piling consolidate, so I can tag multiple of your units or something like that. It's like suddenly it's a problem that they need to solve. So it's all about trying to um, force the opponent to do more thinking, more planning, and more have more difficult decisions to make. Like, oh, I would love to put 2 units on this objective here, but you'll have enough damage to kill 2, so it's not worth me doing. I'll put 1. Or oh, I want to stand behind my other unit here, but because you've got Pioneer 6, I can't stand that close. I have to stand further back, which means then you can go, okay, cool, I'm going to come kill this thing, and then you can't heroic. So yeah, it's a balance of figuring out what the opponent wants, which then comes with knowledge about what your opponent can do, um, and figuring out what you need to get yourself over the line when it comes to killing these units. Right? There's, the worst feeling in the world is going, okay, cool, I'm going to do all movement stuff, and then you go in and go, oh, I whiffed and I didn't kill anything, and it's like, ah. Um, so you got to be wary of that. But I think reroll charges, I think, gets uh, a bad rep. Like it is the easiest one to get, the one that you can always choose. And I think people often will be like, "Oh, I can get sustain and lethal," and it's like, yeah, but did you fail that charge over there? Like maybe you should have taken reroll charges, um, because it's just if you don't need the damage, right? Like there's plenty of armies we go into. If you're going to charge a berserker unit into that enemy unit, that enemy unit is dead. Like it is, we do enough damage. And maybe where you would have spent a CP on re-rolling a charge, you could spend a CP on extra AP if it's really that close. So I think hopefully I've given some things to think about, a bit of an insight into the way that I think about the blessings and the game. But the main thing to do is just not blindly go, oh, I've got sustain lethal, I'm just gonna pick that every turn, because you just might not need it, right? And sometimes you're in the thick of it, you're right next to the opponent, everything's practically in combat or close enough, and you just may as well make it more certain that you get the kills, right? You take sustain lethal. But in those early turns, you just want to look at like potential ways that you can get the most advantage or force the most difficult decisions on your opponent. So yeah, I mean, a quick one from me. But yeah, if you have any questions about blessings and stuff or anything world eaters, please put them in the comments or reach out to me directly. And yeah, thank you for listening to me.